Well, once again, welcome back to Star TV. This is the first edition of the lunchtime news review. In this edition, we'll be bringing you some pertinent issues that we'll be talking about that happened during the week. And joining me on this program is Yankuba Jallo together with Keba Jifang. Keba, we all know, is an award-winning journalist with the Chronicle newspaper and also with the Zingwa News Agency. And then Yankuba is a journalist and a law student at the UTG and also a legal commentator. He's also with the Fourier newspaper. Gentlemen, welcome to Lunchtime with Star TV.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much. And in our today's program, we're talking about some key issues that happened during the week. Key among them will be the issue of Sheriffo Sonko. We all know it was a hot debate at the National Assembly. We'll be talking about it. And then we'll also be looking at the debate of the Labour Amendment Bill that has also been taken to the House of Parliament. And then we also have to look at the supplementary, budget just to cope with the COVID-19 submitted by the Minister of Finance. And we also take a closer look at the summon made by parliamentarians to summon the Vice President to the House of Parliament. So we have some very, very interesting issues that we're going to discuss with my colleagues here. But first, we all know Sidia Jatta, a member for Woolworths, told lawmakers on Monday that pro-child consideration of law has delayed the Gambia for over 22 years. Jatta said this while delivering on the motion to amend the Local Government Bill 2020. Let's just get the report and then we come back.
Mr. Jatta said that the reason why the local government bill is amended 9 times since 2002 is because it was amended for a particular purpose, and stated that when pro-childism characterizes legislation, there is a problem, and that is the problem confronting the country.
We are having problem with legislation because we are parochial in our consideration of the laws that we make. And that is what is dangerous for this country. And that is what has deterred this country for 22 years. And now we are repeating it.
He said that the debate on the said bill has both deep and surface structures, but noted that the concentration is based on the surface structure rather than a deep structure.
When the fundamental question is about the deep structure, and the question is, Madam, if you allow me to cite, if he or she ceases to be a member of the political party of which he or she was a member at the time of his or her election, does this promote democratic values or does it negate? That's the fundamental question. This is what we have to address, full stop, nothing else. Does this promote the values that we stand for, that we are defending in these chambers? That is the fundamental question. And that is the deep structure of the question. And the surface structure, people say, you are brought here by a political party. That's the question. The question, that's an understatement. Everybody knows that some come here as independents, some come here as members of political parties. That's not the question. The question is, how do you promote democratic values? How do you maintain the power of the people? The only people who should decide the power of the people. That's what you represent. That's why you are powerful. Somebody was talking about your power. It is the power of the people that you are exercising here. And the fundamental question, does anybody have right to negate that?
He challenged the lawmakers to not speak as politicians, but legislators when making laws. He noted that the laws are not made for individuals, but for generality to serve purpose for posterity.
So, Madam Speaker, I think we have to rethink. We are lawmakers. above everything else, the country hangs on our shoulders in terms of law. Which law should we make to promote the prosperity and well-being of our people? Do we make laws to fetter the voice of those who are representing people?
He said that laws are not made to fetter the voice of those who are representing people, and if that is the case, they should have brought back Section 91, subsection 1. Jatta thus challenged his core lawmakers to wish for others what they wish for themselves. He added that the reason why they amended Section 91, subsection 1 was to grant protection to lawmakers from losing their seats should they be expelled by their parties.
We want to free people. We want people to have the capacity to individuate themselves. That is freedom. If you cannot individuate yourself, you are a slave. And you cannot represent people if you don't have the capacity to individuate yourself in terms of thought, in terms of action. We must always remember this.
He said the fact lawmakers are called honorable entails they are supposed to be truthful, sincere and honest people. But when he entered in the National Assembly and saw some assembly members who were not honorable, sincere and truthful, he decided not to be called honorable. He noted that one cannot be more honorable than the person who employs him or herself and arrogate him or herself from those paying him or her. Jatta stressed, colonialism is gone, and it is the people who decide, and it is the people who must be in control. And if lawmakers want to abuse their powers, the Constitution empowers the people to kick them out. Jacqueline Coley, reporting for Star TV News.
Okay, we've all seen the debate at the National Assembly. We know that Monday was a hectic Monday at the National Assembly regarding the issue of Sheriffo Sonko. We've seen comments made by Honorable Side Jatakeba. What do you make of those comments?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me here to the Star TV. It's a pleasure to be here. With regards to my comment on this subject matter, I think the law itself is not a progressive law as far as I'm concerned. That's my viewpoint. It's a controversial one, though many people will disagree with it. But then I think every employee, deserves that, job protection. And then, irrespective of who is the victim here, let's factor in Sheriffo Sonko today. He is the victim of the law. So even if the bill is supposed to be passed by the parliament, it happens to be passed. Whether it will affect Sheriffo Sonko, that's something actually altogether. Whether the law is retrogressive, because constitutionally I'm not sure it can apply to Sherifo's case. Okay. Because constitution it states that it cannot be retrogressive. So, but even whereas it doesn't affect Sherifo's case, Sheriffo happens to come down, I think this law should be passed, to at least ensure that it serves protection for local government officials.
Okay, because we've seen what happened with the National Assembly members. I think that portion was changed for National Assembly members, but at that time they did not consider the local governments. Yankuba.
Yes, sir. It's very important to clarify one thing.
Yeah.
The National Assembly can make a law and backdate it. It is in the Constitution.
Okay.
So the essence of every law is what is important. It's not what the current reality, but what the law wants to achieve. So here it is trying to free a person from being in position to strengthen their party objectives instead of national interest. If you go to our laws, Section 112 is saying National Assembly members should be there for the public interest. Whatever they do or say must be in the public interest. Whether Sheriffo or not, that is not important. What does the law aim to achieve? That is what they should be discussing now. Even though we know it is coined at the wrong time right now, it should have been, when they were amending theirs, they should have done the same. But with that, we can still allow it because it is a progressive law. It is a law that we were complaining about in the previous regime. So we want to change it. So anyone who supports it is like you were not genuine in the previous regime.
Yeah, but some people might argue that, let me just comment, some people might argue that, okay, it's good, they've been put in there by their party, Okay, because the party nominated them to stand for the election and then they won. So they should be dismissed and then stand for election again to see whether they will regain their positions.
Yeah, when your party puts you, makes you a candidate and you win, you go into office. You are not there in the party office. You are there in the national office. National office, your conscience must be guided by national interest. It should not be your party interest. Everyone belongs to a political party, or you have one that you at least like. So no one can dissociate yourself from politics. But however, when issues of national concern, especially when it regards laws, it is not for your party. It's not going to only apply to your party, but it's going to apply to the whole Gambia. So your arguments must be centered on the national interest.
Okay, but you want to comment?
Yeah, I just agree with him, because if you look, even those who voted for any public official, let's say local government official in this case, even those who voted, if you want to conduct elections this time around, you will find out that those who voted for you may not vote for you again this time around. So what is very fundamental is that we should take the power back to the people, you understand, and then we should also factor in our minds that if a public official is actually not serving the interest of the party, that doesn't warrant his removal from the office, since he is serving his locality. I think that's his point, just to emphasize on that.
Yeah, even you go to the Local Government Act, there's a provision for the electors to remove. There's a procedure, it has to be referendum and other things. That procedure is better, that the people see they elected you with trust, and they see that you are not fulfilling that trust. They want to remove it. The procedure is there. Okay. Let them sign their petitions and everything, and send it to IEC. And then IEC also will do, and there will be a referendum. If it succeeds, then you lose your seat, rather than only 2-3 people, individuals of political parties. In fact, the political structures of the political parties, the executive is not the highest decision-making body. It should be the delegates, the Congress. Okay. So put it at the Congress. You 5 people, 11 people who are elected, or 20 people executive, you sit over it and just sack a person who you have equal powers with. You are an executive member. It means a position of privilege. It's not a position of power.
So meaning the decision of the UDP is totally wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you go to section 60 of the Constitution, all political parties must conform with the principles of democracy. So if you look at the procedure, Sheriffo was sacked, registered, and also sacked again. What does that tell? There's something that is going on wrong. Where the principles of national justice, was he afforded fair hearing? Was he consulted? All these things. And in fact, what is most important is, before you sack a person, or dismiss a person or expel a person from a party, there must be a violation of your constitution or something of your party. I am not sure whether UDP have a constitution. If they have, what section of the constitution or what? Because there must be procedures for expel. You must do this and then you. Sheriffo did what? People don't know. You are not doing what. You are not in line with our party. Because it's support of Barrow. Yeah. That is all. So a person is being sacked for support to the president, and in fact your party was supporting President Barrow. When you fall out with him, someone still maintains that you sent, then you should have all.
Yes, because in one of his arguments he argues that he's supporting Barrow because his party instructed him at that time to support Barrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, but the argument the UDP guys also made is that Sheriffo, they got a popular demand that Sheriffo should actually vacate. I read this thing in some of their arguments.
So popular demand and the law. So the law, their constitution. What does their constitution say? Let them come and tell the Gambians that section this or article this of our constitution says if you do this, you will be expelled. Sheriffo did this. The people know. And how was it done? Was Sheriffo afforded the fair hearing? Was it called? Let it be. And if the matter goes to court, the litigation would be, if like Sheriffo has a good lawyer, it's going to be UDP in litigation, not even Sheriffo.
Okay. Okay. Now you've just mentioned IEC in your discussion. Where does IEC stand here? If the National Assembly made a decision on this?
The National Assembly is going to change a law. They don't have anything to do with Sheriffo. Okay. It's a bill they want to change, Local Government Act. Okay. So Sheriffo and the Local Government Act are different. So for them, some of them who do not know what they are doing would argue and bring Sheriffo into issue. Sheriffo is not into issue here. even though we know the reality Sheriffo is there, but the bill sought to change the Local Government Act, a particular section of the local government. Let them argue surrounding that. The merits of that, what the law aims to do. Sheriffo is another thing. That will be for IEC and then for courts to do, not for the National Assembly to decide.
Okay, but are we seeing Sheriffo staying put or going?
Well, I wouldn't be able to tell that. I think, my understanding is that, from the research I made, was that National Assembly cannot, the laws cannot be retrogressive, in terms of its appliance. So, but then if brother is, informing that, that is possible. So, if that is actually possible, then we see legal battle. I expect that there will be legal battle, a mind battle between, lawyers from both sides, and then, try to resolve the matter. That will determine whether Sheriffo would actually leave or he would stay.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen, on that. Now we look at the debate of the 2010 Labour Amendment Bill. The Legislative House on Tuesday, we all know, debated on the Forced Labour Bill 2020. The move was aimed at enacting a bill that sought to eliminate forced labour on pregnant women and children, as well as eliminate all forms of discrimination against women. Some members raised the need for the extension of the maternity leave for pregnant and breastfeeding women to at least 9 months or more. Let's just get this report and come back.
The move was meant to review and repeal the provisions in the Forced Labour Act found to be discriminatory against women and girls in the Gambia, in furtherance of the international obligation, constitution, and connected matters. Moving the bill for second reading, Justice Minister Dauda Jallow said the amendment is the first of its kind on the continent. He said that it is the trailblazer for the recognition, observance, and domestication of the international obligations and commitments related to women's rights into domestic laws.
What was there before, Section 71 of the Labour Act, gives 6 weeks leave before and 6 weeks after. But not only that, under the Labour Act, for you to be entitled to that leave, there are preconditions. For example, you have to be working in that institution for about 2 years before you can be entitled to those maternity leave, which are very discriminatory. Some women have to lose their jobs because their employers tell them, you are not yet due for maternity. So I think it should lie with the employer to determine when a child bearing a woman should decide to bear a child. So that is to remove those conditionalities that are in the Labour Act. So it becomes automatic. Even if I employ you today, 1 month down the line you conceive, or you are due for maternity, you want to proceed, it's your right. You can be allowed to proceed without a threat to your job. So those requirements, conditions that are attached to the leave will now be removed. So that will bring it in line with the Women's Act 2010, which makes it automatic. Any woman of childbearing age that conceives and wants to proceed on leave may proceed. So what was there is the 6 weeks before, 6 weeks after. But also the condition that you need to be 2 years continuous service.
Bileji Tunkara, National Assembly member for Kantora, who seconded the bill, said the move was in the right direction since it sought to insert a new element to complement or enrich the bill. He, however, stressed the need to give women maternal leave, but there needs to be safeguards whereby employers will bear in mind that they cannot force women to perform certain tasks which pose risks, are hazardous, and a threat to their health. He said that the bill was to protect the rights of juveniles to address the problem of child labor, saying it was the fundamental duty of every government to protect the rights of its juvenile from forced labor. He said the improper upbringing and lack of education shatters the hopes of juvenile and that poses threats to the national security of countries. He urged that juveniles be protected against all forms of exploitations, adding that this helps in building a brighter future for both the juveniles and women, which the bill aspires to guarantee. The majority leader and member for Kombo South, Keba Kebaro, said the bill came at the right time. He acknowledged that the objects and the reasons of the bills were crucial and were in line with the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Nominated member Yakuma Jete buttressed on the importance of the 6 months maternity leave for women.
The reason why the 6 months is important and the reason why I think it is capped at 6 months, even though I agree with the Honourable Member of Woolly East and the Honourable Member of Witham that we would like for it to be extended to 1 year, or maybe even 9 months. In other countries you have 3 months before that and then 6 months after that. But just to enlighten some of the members of why the 6 months. This is because women are advised now to exclusively breastfeed the first 6 months of a child's life. And if you are exclusively breastfeeding, that means you cannot be away from your child for a long period of time, because as a mother I've experienced this, and I know you will need to feed them at least maybe 12 times or more in a day. And this is necessary because 75% of brain development occurs from conception to 2 years. So it would have been great if we would have a maternity leave that will cover the first 2 years of the child's life, so that women can be encouraged to breastfeed. And this has direct impact on the GDP of a nation. Because if you have children who are well nourished, it erases, who are well breastfed, it erases the issue of malnutrition. That is another addition why this bill is quite very important.
National Assembly member for Woolly West, Honorable Sidia Jata, also proposed the maternity leave extension, as women are given 6 months maternity leave at their various workplaces. Men are provided with 10 days maternity leaves. However, some NAMs raised the issue of discrimination against men by the ministry and proposed the extension of the 10 days to at least 1 month. Since the enactment of the Women's Act in 2010, significant strides have been made to enforce the law and to protect women in line with the provisions of the Act. After the debate on the merits and reasons of the bill, it was moved to the Assembly Business Committee for committance to either a particular relevant committee or the Committee of the Whole House for scrutiny, recommendations and advice to the plenary. For Star TV, I am Modu El.
Well, we know the issue of labor has been a problem in this country. You know, maternity leave issues, child labors, forced labor. It has been an issue in this country, you know, for quite a while. And then looking at this labor bill. But let's talk about the issue of forced labor in the first instance, because we've seen a lot of time where young children are forced into labor by their own families, by their own parents.
It's a reality in the Gambia that child labor here, and we are told by statistics that out of 6 children, every 1 person is exposed to child labor. Then child labor has a lot of circumstances that cause it. One of them is we have also street children in the Gambia here. We have children who are in the street who the government must help to do so. So it is one thing to have the law, but the most important thing also to have the mechanism. Do we have mechanism? So I was at the National Assembly when this was being done. Then the members were arguing on or discussing on the mechanism, whether government has a contributing role, because the government has the principal burden for protection, especially to children. They have it, even though the parents also have one way. But how can a person born from poor parents, whose family heritage live in poverty, and then everything is about poverty, how can you talk about child labor from there? If the child don't go and get something, some people will not have dinner. Some will have it. So the government will need to put in some things. Yeah, the law is a very progressive one, and we need it. That's right.
Keba?
Yeah, my take on the bill is also a progressive law. It is in accordance with, you look at the nutrition, policy that we have, that the UNICEF also, try to introduce. I think it's timely that we have it. But then, like he said, I think application of laws in the Gambia has always been the issue. And then you touched a very crucial point here, that is the forced labor. We already have laws in place, as far as forced labor is concerned. Child labor is prohibited. You look at the Children's Act, 2016. You look at our even international instruments that we are subscribed to. All these things prohibited that. But then what you must see in the street is that you board commercial vehicles, you see children being apprenticed. You go to the market, you see them
selling,
with their plates
exactly.
selling everything. So it could not be implemented. There are laws. This would be another law that might come and then it will not be implemented, because we have a bunch of them. You talk to the Child Protection Alliance, they will cry that all these laws are being in place, but then they have never been implemented.
So meaning we have a problem of implementation.
Yeah, we have that is very visible in the Gambia's case. We do not implement laws, but also if you see that it could not be implemented, it has a binding to what he said, and that is the mechanisms.
Exactly.
We don't
Those are
have
mechanism, exactly.
So it's like a burden. Government trying to take people to court, for violating those laws, but in the same place, government is also failing. To provide mechanisms. So this is the situation.
That's it. So, okay, the issue of maternity leave, we all know it is a problem, at working place. That one is a general issue.
So I just want to talk about that because it's very controversial also. It's very, very controversial. I think it's good. Yeah. It's good because women, they are the people who actually, take all the burden in terms of bearing children. Yeah. You can feel for them. Taking, pregnancy for 9 months. Delivering, is another process. Feeding the child would take, as he said, would take up to another year. So this is actually painful. But also, and then I respect their views on that and their demands on that. I think it's a good law. But then the negative side of it would be like, especially not the government but the private sector. Somebody who put up his company and then trying to struggle, make something out of the day, and then they're also saying that there should be gender parity in your employment. There should be 50-50. So what if your half of the population is enjoying that right? So they may likely it may likely have some impact in terms of how private sector would be employing the women.
Yeah, because some private sectors will say, okay, I can employ you, but you're not going to get pregnant.
It can.
This happens.
They're saying is to meet their international obligation in the labor aspect. Yeah, it's important that they remove the conditions attached to this right for women. But it is important also to put into consideration the realities of the situation, as highlighted by Jeffa, that someone who is an entrepreneur who does everything from his pocket is trying to thrive, and then someone goes to maternity leave, then he is obliged to employ another one to replace, whilst this one is being paid. So what would the government be doing for them, or what is going to happen to this? Is it workable for them? So these are things that we must be asking.
And the mechanisms, the parliamentarians are pushing. I think it should also include the taxation.
Taxation, okay.
Maybe that would help the companies, because the lot of heavy amount of tax have been levied on them. They must do that part of their responsibility. So I think if they want this, then the mechanism should also cover that, whether it will be reduced a bit.
Okay, and now we come to the issue of the fathers.
Yeah.
One national member raised that it has to go for one month at least instead of 10 days.
I think it's not a bad idea for that.
For many, exactly.
Because I will not call it maternity leave, but I will not call it a maternity leave, maybe an entitlement. Because you are the father. Usually in our settings here, the father is the household head. Then he's going to be responsible for everything. Then it's very good for that father to have 1 month to focus on at least the planning, preparation, naming ceremony.
Exactly.
So I think it's a good thing to claim for.
Yeah.
But you cannot also compromise. Compromise the.
For me, I don't buy 1 month. I think it's just too much. It's not also fair to the employers. 1 month would be too much for men, because even you also conduct survey in most of the family homes. You will realize that even men are not taking those responsibilities. Some men are doing it, but not all men are doing it. You give them 1 month, they will be sitting doing some things, some errands.
Something different.
Different from these things. So I think 2 weeks should be fine, but 1 month is okay. This country also need to move, and we cannot move without definitely, putting our time.
But increasing the maternity leave for women for more than, 6 months or 9 months or more.
So I will go for 9 months.
9
I
months.
think it's necessary.
Yeah, it worth it. It worth it.
From a legal perspective.
Yeah, it's a very good thing because giving birth is a process. Then the woman needs time to at least get back to, and then the child also needs her attention. You cannot take your child to a workplace with disturbing another. So it's better that the law provides those type of things, for especially breastfeeding, which is an entitlement to a child, and the World Health Organization and many others are advocating for that. Even our health system here is encouraging women to do breastfeeding. So you cannot leave your child at home, you have to be with your child. So it's very important that we have this type of things.
Okay. Well, COVID-19, we all know, is on the rise. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mambure Njai, had on Wednesday proposed a supplementary budget before the National Assembly to cope with COVID-19 pandemic in the country. Let's take a look at this report and come back.
As the adverse effects of the pandemic have drastically continued to unfold, the Minister of Finance, Mambure Njai, had made a supplementary bill proposal of $3 billion before the Parliament to cope the coronavirus pandemic in the country. He said that the focus of the supplementary budget is covering the cost of things needed to combat the coronavirus outbreak, as well as other essential and urgent budgetary needs that are directly or indirectly related to the pandemic. According to Minister Njai, there is a need to support the private sector to cope the pandemic.
There is need to support the private sector, in particular to the tourism and hospitality sector, so that they may cope with the effects of the pandemic. The supplementary estimate is also formulated to address specific needs that may not necessarily be associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, including payments for Haraki and Sapuji, rehabilitation of the Bate, Market and Birham, construction of the museum for our founding father, the late Sir Dawud al-Kairaba, rural roads projects, recapitalizing the central bank and the settlement of international trade financing cooperation facility on behalf of the Gambia Ground.
However, the Gambia government has also taken a step to provide support to the general public, he said.
The fact that government has already introduced various measures such as the closure of non-essential businesses to control the spread of the coronavirus, we therefore deem it fit to provide some sort of humanitarian assistance to the general public. As we all know, almost half of our population lives on a poverty level less than $1.2 a day. And a meaningful sector of the economy is in the informal sector, where most people earn daily income wages to feed their families.
He also said that the public enterprises also need support from the government as they are mainly affected by the pandemic.
They need urgent assistance from government in order to sustain their operation, including payment of salaries to their employees. Under this supplementary estimate, it is proposed that the operating expenses of these PEs be settled by government with a bailout to the tune of $121 million to sustain their operations for a period of 3 months.
As the Gambia continues to register more cases, the state of public emergency has been extended by the government, resulting in the closure of unessential businesses and the restriction of public gatherings. I am Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
Well, another supplementary budget, for Gambia to fight the COVID-19. We've seen the first one, a lot of issues happens, to the extent of Minister of Health even saying, corruptions have taken place, and here is again, another bill tabled at the National Assembly to supplement.
Yeah, so for me, I think my take on this thing would definitely, whether it is priority as at now or not. And then, yes, the whole world, the global economy has been in turmoil, including our own very bad economy that was already poor, and then COVID came to, worse the, situation. But I think the government, what they should first do, instead of bringing the supplementary appropriation bill, is to revise the budget and then restructure it. And then in doing that, what they should also factor in is look at the prioritization areas. Which one should we leave out? Of course, he mentioned that remittance is not coming as usual, and that is affecting the economy. This is not a secret to anybody. We all know our relatives in Europe have not been working actively. He mentioned about tourism. We all know tourism have been seriously dealt with. These are all challenges, and then we are not saying no to these challenges. But what they should also do is to revise and look for the priority areas. Like he mentioned, some of these areas deserve assistance, but not all. You look at the Dawda Jawara mausoleum. I don't think it is worth it at this crucial time. We don't need funding. We don't need 15 million to go into that. It doesn't make sense. 15 million could go and address some problems. This is a mausoleum. It's all about constructing something, edifice that would be representing the historical fact of our former president. Which is, I'm not saying it's not important, but you look at the timing.
At the timing,
it's not correct.
We all know that there are increases on cases, every day in the Gambia.
I think the government actually is not doing what it's supposed to do. Maybe some of the things that the minister highlighted in the supplementary appropriation bill are necessary. That is to support the people. Like, for example, the owners of video club, the owners of shop, all those businesses that they refer to as non-essential, have been affected. You cannot ignore that. It's a reality. But however, we also should look at what the government is doing. They say COVID-19 is going to affect. What are they doing? We are told, even media reports, that the border is not well secured, and then you realize that the market, everything is like nothing is happening. We don't even see the essence of the declaration of state of emergency, because transport, everything is normal. But the money that he is requesting, if I were a National Assembly member, I would not support this. The only thing I would support is there will be changes in the amendment. Support the relevant one. Give a priority to the important things. Not everything that he mentioned is important. And our health sector, what are they doing? Provision of medication. Are there enough medication? People don't know. He should be in position to tell government, this is what we need right now. We are faced with a situation that is far from normal, COVID-19, and it's on the increase. So, do we have the proper health system to, if the situation goes out of hand? Because scientists are telling us, even experts will tell us that it can go out of hand. We are seeing what is happening in other countries. So are we prepared?
We've also seen the frontline workers the other day. They also want to, they complain, and then they give a demand to the Ministry of Health, to provide some GS for them, because they are working and their life is at risk.
It brings a lot of questions. Where there is transparency, the other amount, that is the 500 million they were talking about, and where are the Chinese donations that they have? Is that enough? Because people don't know how it happened. So transparency should be key. And the government, when it came, even in the National Development Plan, they said they would entrench the transparency in their activities. People don't know how the money was dispersed. Then we would like to know exactly how it happened and why we still have those type of problems. We have our tailors here who are doing it, because I watched one backway migrant who was doing that, so in protective gears for it. So is the government ready to invest in that? Yeah. Whether that this SAP includes all those type of things. We don't need other things. Jawaras, I don't know what he called it.
Mausoleum.
In fact, the trouble of the country began from their republic, and still we are trying to fight that. Let's solve the problem before thinking of copying what other countries do. We cannot misspend. It will be a misspend for me. That's what I would think.
Okay. So I think also the National Assembly should ask for a report of the previous 500 million that has been given to them, how they spend it, everything, so that before they do anything else.
That should be done, because that is there is a special committee actually monitoring these things, that is at the parliament. So I think it's up to those people to call these people government, and then let them come and explain how things are being spent. But apart from that, I think to ensure that transparency, the government also, what it is not doing, is the involvement. It has not been open to its stakeholders. Let's talk about the National Assembly. They are very crucial in this. Involve them.
Very key. Yeah.
Involve them. Not just come into National Assembly, address your problem, but then involve them how you can strategize and then correct issues. How you want to ensure that the whole economy is also refixed. Things are not in the proper setup. You look at I think in as much as we are losing a lot, but then there are also factors that the government is not telling us, and then that is how much have also been saved. Because you look at the traveling allowances. This is a huge component of our budget. This has not been exploited, since 2019 or since March. People have not been traveling. So where is that money? At least that would be a surplus to cover something. But then where is that money? I think they also need to be open up, and then also open up to stakeholders like assembly, like some of the even private economists. Let them come together and engage them how to restructure the economy, because it needs to be restructured. Yeah. You cannot tell people that you have to approve this 3 billion on the account of something that you are not properly explaining it. Yeah. So to give that clear explanation, involve the economists who are in the private area, involve National Assembly who are specialized on economy of the country of business, and government have its own people there. Talk how to restructure things. It's not like you should take the whole credit for it.
Exactly, and I also think Yankuba just mentioned it. They also need to empower the tailors here, because if these things can be made in the Gambia here, why invest heavily outside? Yeah. Then
it makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is a moment where we should, because even the not only GS, but then these things, the covers, the mask. We've seen our local people doing it. Yeah. So this is the moment you make them thrive. But we never do that. We keep on, going outside buying things. But you can also expect that there could be a possibility of them getting kickbacks out of this.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the time we will know the type of National Assembly we have, because they have powers to exercise oversight over the executive. The executive is acting on behalf of the people. So National Assembly will serve as watchdog to monitor their activities. So they must be ready to ask questions. They must not only be told, be given documents and let them not. They should be able to scrutinize. Let them know exactly what happened. Let them not be provided with a list, but let there be enough fact, so that it will convince the whole Gambians that this amount, because it's our money, this is the amount spent. It is spent on this day. Let everything be clear to Gambians. The National Assembly, their division will not help. This is a situation that is confronting every Gambian. So the division, they should at least bring back public confidence in them and the trust. At the beginning, people trust them.
People trust by the beginning.
Yeah. So right now, people are seeing, they speak on sentiments. So they should give up with their sentiments and discuss national issues. Let them be ready to. People want to know. People are confused. Like for example, this declaration of a state of emergency, repeated. People don't understand what the president is doing. So that's why the coming of the vice president will help. So these are things that the National Assembly must be ready to do. But the problem is our National Assembly members have always failed Gambians in the previous regime, and we are seeing the same trend.
And you think they are also failing?
Yeah, they are taking that trend. Okay. Because seeing, like for example, our members who are taking this $10,000 until it became exposed. People don't know till when they had their issues, then we come to know.
Vehicle, land issues and other stuff.
So, so these are things that we must put into consideration in the coming elections. That is, if the draft comes to presidential and the National Assembly election will be held on the same day. So we need lawmakers who will know their functions, who will know that they are even more important than the president. They are more relevant on international issues than they have powers to question. Let them be questioning. Let them ask questions, even to take matters to court. Let them even summon people. All those powers, let them exercise their powers over the executive. The executive will be able to regulate their activities. The confusion, I think the National Assembly also needs to do something. If they don't help us, the Gambia will continue to be in this now. Till next election, we don't know what the money of the COVID is, where it is spent and how it is. Okay. The benefit, exactly. Some are saying before COVID ended, we need to have a hospital called COVID hospital, Yes, and this. So we don't see anything. Where is the 500 million? We are not seeing anything. I don't know how it is happening, but
okay.
Then you said it was actually meant to pay some of the frontliners.
Frontliners are complaining right now
that they don't have it. So
yeah, exactly.
Definitely this brought about a lot of question mark.
So National Assembly should help. Actually, they are the people we are relying on. Their divisions, no. Let them not go to the National Assembly with their sentiments. Let their sentiments stop at their political rallies, their whatever. National Assembly, let them be guided by the Constitution. Section 112. We are there, whatever you say, whatever you do, must be in the public interest. What is the public interest right now? We want to know, have answers to questions about our money. It's our money, it's not belonging to the executive. It's our money. We want to know exactly how it is spent.
How the money is spent. Okay. Well, it has been a busy week at the National Assembly. The Vice President of the Gambia has been summoned to appear before Parliament to answer some questions regarding the unconstitutional state of public emergency extension by President Adama Barrow without the consent of the National Assembly. Let's take a look at the report and come back.
The Gambia Constitution provides that the President may at any time, by proclamation published in the Gazette, to declare a state of public emergency in the Gambia. However, a state of public emergency lasts for 7 days, or if the National Assembly is not in session, it can last for 21 days. In the 1997 Constitution, a state of public emergency can only be extended prior to its expiration or when a resolution is tabled and approved by 2/3 of National Assembly members. A standing order empowers for National Assembly member to request a permission from the Speaker to make a statement before the National Assembly on matters relating to public interest. However, the member for Serekunda constituency, Honorable Halifa Sallah, issued a statement requesting the Vice President to appear before the Assembly to answer questions on matters relating to the state of public emergency extension by the President, which is unconstitutional without their consent.
I can remove that this August, summons the Vice President to come and answer 3 fundamental questions. Why the motion for extension of the state of public emergency for a period of 45 days, with effect from Wednesday, 1st July 2020, as per the order paper of 30th June 2020 was withdrawn? Has the state of emergency been declared since the National Assembly commenced the session? If so, when was it declared and under what authority? What emergency power regulations are currently enforced and under what authority? How will the executive compute time to determine the expiry date of each of the declarations of the state of public emergency since 18 March 2020? Answers to this question will provide sufficient evidence for the National Assembly to determine whether the executive is acting in line with the letter and spirit of the Constitution it has taken oath to respect, uphold, and enforce order. I rest my case after placing it before the judgment seat of reason, conscience, law, and the national assembly.
Nevertheless, nominated member Yakumba Jaite on her statement calls on the President to appear before the Parliament instead of the Vice President.
I think it is necessary, not the Vice President itself, because this is a power that is given directly to the President. For the President himself to come, we have a provision in the Constitution and discuss this because this is a matter of national importance. And I would say that if the President come and cannot defend this position, this would call for impeachment, and I will put up a notice in this Parliament to start an impeachment procedure if the President cannot defend the abrogation of this Constitution.
Only the National Assembly is given the power by the Constitution to extend a state of public emergency so that it will not expire within 7 days if the National Assembly is in session, or within 21 days if the National Assembly is not in session. The motion was subsequently adopted by the members of Parliament, and the Vice President is expected to appear before the Parliament next week to answer the questions. Maria Madem, reporting for Star TV News.
Well, the Vice President been summoned by National Assembly members to appear at Parliament, but we also seen Yakumba saying instead of the Vice President, it should be the President himself. And if the President comes and fails to defend, he will call for an impeachment.
Yeah, it's a very it's very important that we have this type of things at the National Assembly, and then it tells about that the National Assembly members are now beginning to understand their powers. And then first, the honorable member of Sheriffo is saying someone like is calling. You don't have any option that, but you have to come and answer.
Yeah.
It is the constitution is saying the vice president shall represent the president before the National Assembly, and that's what Honorable Salah wants, for her to come and provide them with clarity, so that they will be able to hold the executive to account. With those 3 questions, I think if they are answered, then people will be able to know exactly, because he's even asking for the authority, that is with law empowers the president to be doing that. Why is he doing that? And why did he withdraw that motion? But for this man, for this lady, Yakumba, is talking about impeachment. This is another thing, another level.
Exactly.
But they are the fact mission, yeah. So that fact finding mission is for her. I think she has already made up her mind that the president is guilty, and in fact her motion, I don't think the National Assembly should entertain it, because she has already made up her mind. The National Assembly at this stage are the fact finding mission. Even impeachment, the procedure is clear and it's not easy, and she is not there to decide that. And I think National Assembly members must speak in the public interest. For that purpose, I think for her, it was not in the public interest, but on her personal sentiment. Yeah.
I don't want to talk on the impeachment side of the story.
You want to talk about?
Yeah, but let me just talk about the importance of the session. The call is quite important. I think having the vice president in the National Assembly, it's just like what we were saying. How these monies were spent. How this state of emergency have been frequently extended without involving the parliament. I think these are matters of importance of the Gambia, because in fact there was a notice that the executive has brought to the National Assembly, trying to get the extension, only to realize that it has been withdrawn. So that raises question. I think that point also, I think it's among the questions highlighted by the Serakunda MP, so that you can come. And then also why the president is now bypassing the National Assembly completely, because by virtue of the law, it's very clear that National Assembly have that exclusive power. The president may do it without the session of the assembly, and then that is why it is limited to 7 or 21 days. But what if the National Assembly is actually in a session? You now avoided them completely. You even took bill there. This thing there. You withdrew it. So where are we heading?
So what about what?
It's like you are taking the powers that belong to somebody.
What if the vice president failed to appear?
No, she does not have any option. She must appear, and I think she will appear even. It's important that we provide some clarity on this thing, that the president, National Assembly has no power to summon the president by force to come, but they can do that to the vice president. And then I saw some argument somewhere that the president must come. The president is at the discretion time, because the constitution is saying may.
Okay.
But for the vice president, it's saying shall. People must be able to understand that. So if vice president has no option, unless she wants to lose her seat or she wants something to happen to her, but she must come. It is at the National Assembly. National Assembly is calling her to come. It says someone. Someone means, in fact, they will provide her time to come. Even if it will not be for her to tell them the time. They will provide her time to come. Then she will come and provide answers. She must provide answers to the question. And we anticipate that if she provides questions, the National Assembly will be in position to take further step, whether to hold the government in breach of the constitution. But who is going to determine that? Is it the National Assembly or the court? It is clear from our constitution that it is the court that can do that, to declare the action of the president unconstitutional, section 127 of the constitution. So if she believes, Yakumba believes that the president's action is in breach of it, she can take the matter to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can make a declaration to that. Not for her to just say, I'm starting this impeachment process. The impeachment process will involve a lot of things, and the Chief Justice, which Chief Justice in his art will sit over political sentiments and decide over it. So these are things these are the types of norms. She was in fact a nun who was a victim of law, and that she was rescued by the court. So let her explore the courts and see whether people will. This is the new Gambia we are talking about. It's not about sentiments. Let her not try that process. I think if she tries that, she is on a mission fail.
To fail.
Yeah.
Okay, well, gentlemen, time is against us right here on Star TV. Let me just allow you to say some few words.
Yeah, so thank you for inviting me here. It has been a pleasure to be here. And then I'll just say keep it up. This is a very good platform where you actually get close with your contacts, with your audience and viewers. And then congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara, and then thank you, Jeffang, for being.
Well, we have having you people frequently. Don't worry.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right. That's it right here on Star TV, Long Time News review. Till we come your way once again, that's going to be next Saturday. It's bye from us. Thank you.
Great.